Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about the whole of chapter 2, so we're going to go through a rates review. Let's go. So the first thing you need to remember about rates is that they show a relationship between two different quantities, and those quantities have different units. Remember, we looked at ratios in the past, 3 cups of flour to 4 cups of flour, same units, all right? This is rate, though, has different units, traveling 100 kilometers per 3 hours, something like that. So the things that we need to look at then for rates, we have got speed is a prime example, like I just said, kilometers per hour. Now that per is used as the symbol that divides the two quantities in the rate. So we use that slash symbol. And we do a lot of work with simplifying rates, okay? So simplifying rates means that we divide both sides of the rate. Remember, we did the same thing with ratios, where we would divide one side and divide the other, or multiply one side and multiply the other. But when we are simplifying rates, we need to divide the first quantity so that we can get the second quantity to be 1. All right, so if it was 100 kilometers per 2 hours, we would change the whole thing and we would divide the whole thing so that instead of it being per 2 hours, we would just say per hour. So we would divide both sides by 2 in that example to get 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, so yeah, the average, that's another word for it, is the average, and that's when we do the first quantity divided by the change in the second quantity. So let's look at a couple of examples. 300 kilometers is traveled in 5 hours, so we need to find the average rate there. So it was 300 kilometers, and we do need to write units every time for these ones because they're different units. And to simplify that, we are going to divide both sides by 5. And I like to write it on both sides just so I remember to do it to both sides. And so when we divide both sides by 5, we get 60 kilometers per hour. All right, and we don't need to write the 1 in front of that H because we know that it's just 1 H. The next one we have got is $7 for 4 kilos of apples. Now we want to find out, well, maybe we don't need 4 kilos of apples, we just want to find out how much 1 kilo of apples is. So the simplified rate would be by dividing both sides by 4. Now, when I look at that, that's not going to divide very nicely. So 7 divided by 4 doesn't come out very nicely, so I could grab a calculator, so I'll do that really quick. And we're probably going to get some decimals in there. So what do we get? 1.75, perfect. So that simplifies to $1.75 per kilo of apples. All right, so that's simplifying rates when we divide both sides of the rate to make the second part of the rate 1. And rates, just a quick reminder again, is when we have a comparison between two quantities, but those quantities are in different units. Okay, there are 2 more examples there that you could have a look at. Runs 20 kilometers in 2 hours, so that's pretty easy. That's 10 kilometers per hour. And Brenda eats 12 lollies in 5 minutes, so we could divide 12 by 5. She is averaging 2.4 lollies per minute. Okay, so that was 2A. The next topic we looked at with rates was 2B, converting units. So units are measurement, ways to measure different things like length or distance, area, volume, speed, all kinds of things. So we had a couple of tricks up our sleeve just to remember. The first one was to go from meters per second to kilometers per hour, or vice versa. And there's our tricks there, is just divide by 3.6 or multiplied by 3.6. Okay, so that's not something that, I mean, it is a really helpful rule if we can just remember that 3.6, but that's there in our key ideas. The other one was to convert from miles per hour. We don't really use miles per hour in Australia, but if you were traveling in England or if you were traveling in the US, they would have their speed written in miles per hour, and we want to convert that to our units, which is kilometers per hour. So there's that there, and some other conversions. Now, a lot of these, remember, will be on your formula sheet in the back of your workbook, hopefully. All right, convert the following rates to the units shown in brackets. Okay, so we have got $80 per litre, and we want to change that to dollars per milliliter. Okay, so right now we are per litre. Now, litres are pretty large, all right, and then there are 1,000 milliliters in a litre. So what I'm going to do is, the first step I'm going to do is change litres into milliliters. All right, so what that is going to look like, I'm not doing anything on the money side. I'm only changing the right-hand unit to an equivalent measurement unit. So what I've done, I've got $80, stays the same. If it's $80 for 1 litre, then it's going to be $80 per 1,000 milliliters. So again, I'm not dividing anything on either side. I'm just changing the right-hand unit into a more, like the unit that we want to get to, basically. Okay, now I'm ready to simplify the rate. So step 2 is to simplify the rate. And remember, to do that, we need to divide both sides by whatever is the second number. So we're going to divide both sides by 1,000 in this case. Now, your trick for dividing by 1,000, hopefully you can do this by your head, in your head, is there are 3 zeros there. If I'm dividing by 1,000, I'm going to make a number smaller. 3 zeros, decimal places here, so I'm going to move it 3 times to the left because there are 3 zeros in 1,000. So that is going to change to 8 cents per milliliter. Okay, so the first step there was to change liters into milliliters, and then the second step was to simplify the rate. All right, let's do one more. B. $250 per kilogram, and we want to change that into amount of dollars per gram. Okay, this is pretty much the exact same example as the first one, so hopefully we can do this pretty easily. First thing we need to do is change kilograms into grams. There are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. And then the next thing we do is we divide both sides by 1,000. So again, we move the decimal 1, 2, 3. So that is going to simplify to 25 cents per gram. All right, so we divide both sides by 100. All right, let's look at one more. Harry earns $1,400 per week, which is based on a 36-hour working week, 5 days a week. Now, he's obviously not working 36 hours a day. He's doing 36 hours over 5 days. And we have to determine the rate of his income in money per day. Okay, so he earns $1,400 per week, but we want to know, well, what is that going to be per day? So step 1, we need to convert his weeks into days. Now, this question says that he does a 5-day working week. So we are just changing the right-hand side again. We are not impacting the left-hand side yet. We are just converting weeks to days. Okay, so it's still $1,400 per 5 days. And then we are ready to simplify the rate. So remember, simplifying a rate is just dividing both sides by the second number, which in this case is 5. All right, so we have 1,400 divided by 5, and Harry is earning $280 per day. Okay. All right, so that is a quick recap of 2A and 2B. So that's part 1 of the chapter 2 summary. If you can now go and watch the second half of this summary, which is 2C and 2D.